Welcome to the California Maverick, a channel fighting for a free and sane California. The California special election in November, Prop 50, ironically named the Election Rigging Response Act, being rammed through by Gavin Newsom and California Democrats, is rapidly losing steam and backfiring spectacularly, and it may not even make it to November. There's a lot to go over, so let's get into it. Gavin Newsom, the master gaslighter, likes to lie to you and the California voter and tell you how popular this is and how Californians know what's at stake. And voters would show up at record numbers to defend and protect democracy. The reality is, this is wildly unpopular. Most Californians don't want politicians to be drawing up district maps and are very much in favor of the independent redistricting committee.
I appreciate that we're getting feisty. I don't actually like this solution because I think it's important for all of us here in California to be standing up for democratic system.
I don't think we need any changes because we have the fair, democratic, progressive representation that we already have, the officials that we already voted for, so we don't have to change the system anymore.
I reached out to the California Secretary of State's office to find out just how much this special election, when it comes to redistricting, could cost California. It couldn't provide me any figures since, after all, this is still a hypothetical election. No paperwork has been filed to date. However, we decided to take a close look at just how much was spent during the recall election back in 2021, that one where voters decided to keep Governor Gavin Newsom in place. For that election, the state spent $200 million. Then we wanted to take a look at just how much was spent when it comes to the counties here in the central San Joaquin Valley. Let's take a look at some of the numbers. For Fresno County, it was $3.1 million. For Merced County, $1.1 million. In Tulare County, it was just over $1 million as well. Now, keep in mind that since the 2021 election, the state has gained more than 800,000 registered voters, which means that expense has gone up dramatically. Assemblymember Carl DeMaio, a Republican who represents the San Diego area and a vocal critic of redistricting efforts, does point out, though, that there are other costs that would also be associated with this, additional to what was spent back in 2021, specifically when it comes to the salaries and benefits of employees who would be working on these elections. According to his office, the cost for them has gone up 19% since 2021. You also have to factor in that the cost for postage has also gone up in the last 4 years. His office is estimating that the price would be closer to $250 million this time around. Should this effort follow through and the special election go before voters, you can certainly expect that there will also be lawsuits that will be filed in that, in which case taxpayers would be on the hook for the legal costs associated with that as well.
So even in the Bay Area, woke, deep blue, super liberal, anyone who doesn't agree with me is a fascist Bay Area in Oakland wants the independent redistricting committee to stay in place. They don't want the special election. They think it's wrong. I really don't want to talk about the cognitive dissonance in a protest calling President Trump a fascist while simultaneously saying what the Democrat supermajority in California is doing goes against the democratic system. The mental gymnastics with all that actually hurts my brain. And even in the Central Valley, which has a large Latino population, 82% disapprove of this redistricting, gerrymandering war. And the numbers back this up. Politico and UC Berkeley conducted a survey last week, and it revealed that 64% of Californians support the independent commission. And we all know that Politico and UC Berkeley aren't just slightly left of center. They are way off to the left. And a majority of Americans dislike gerrymandering. According to a Rasmussen poll conducted a few days ago, 83% of likely U.S. voters think partisan gerrymandering is a problem. 60% consider it a very serious problem. You can say what you want to say about Rasmussen being biased or right-leaning, but the truth of the matter is they're one of the most accurate pollsters out there. They called the 2024 election by under a couple percentage points, and some states they got within a fraction of a percentage point. Unlike The mainstream polls that said Hillary was going to win in a landslide or Kamala was going to win Iowa by 12 points. And where Gavin Newsom and the Democrats in California are losing a lot of support is with the independent or no party preference voter. 79% of independent or no party preference voters are for the independent commission. So if the independent voters actually show up and vote in November, it's a wrap. This is dead in the water. It's not going to pass. The reality is this whole gerrymandering thing in response to Texas and fighting the evil orange man isn't a flex or a win that Gavin Newsom and California Democrats think it is. In fact, it's seen as childish. And saying they started it or they did it first isn't a really good look. Because you know who uses that argument? They started it, they did it first. Children do. Grade schoolers do. They cheated, so I'm gonna cheat. I don't even want to get into the arguments about Texas and why they're doing what they're doing. It doesn't matter. The argument of they cheated, so we're gonna cheat is horrible optics. It doesn't make anyone look good. And then you wonder why Democrats in general are losing voters, hemorrhaging voters nationwide. California, Oregon, every swing state, this is why. And then it makes you wonder, do you really think this is about defending democracy? Or Gavin Newsom and the Democrats see the writing on the wall and are seeing the numbers? And as I'm recording this video, the California State Assembly just passed the Election Rigging Response Act. But in doing so, they removed the stipulation that hinged on Texas redistricting. Now, regardless of what Texas does, they're still going to move forward with the election, with changing the maps. We said this was going to happen from the beginning. We knew it was going to happen, and now they're doing it right in front of your face. So this whole argument of, well, Texas is doing it, so we're going to do it, is not a win. It's not a flex. It was poor optics. And one could argue that, yeah, maybe because Texas did finalize their maps. However, from now until November, we don't know what they're doing. But California State Democrats don't care. They're still moving forward with their election, like we said they would. Now, there is some hope because California Republicans announced they're sending various petitions to the Supreme Court because of the lack of transparency and the violations to the California Election Code and the California Constitution. California Democrats silenced Republicans in the hearings and denied motions to release and go over the public comments made that were in the thousands in the public comment portal, and they refused to answer one simple question. Who drew the maps?
Governor Gavin Newsom promised that no special interests or this would be transparent. This would not be done in a back room. So we're trying to ascertain in this very short amount of time that you have to deliberate this, who exactly are the maps responsible for?
It's happening very quickly, and the folks that were drawing the maps went back to the Independent Redistricting Commission's testimony and what they heard during their time when they were deliberating this, and they themselves ran out of time to do the work that they needed to do. And so we're basing these on the Voting Rights Act, and we're looking at really bringing the voters into this process, and that's why we're going to an election on November 4th, because at the end of the day, the voters' voice is what matters.
And we're asking because voters back in 2008 and 2010 took the power away from politicians to draw maps because they did not like that it was an incumbent protection plan. So we just need to know. I mean, that's why we're asking.
These are definitely unusual times. We are no longer governing in a democracy. We're governing in an authoritarian government. We are seeing things that we care so deeply about in California. We have education, food for children, our immigrant community, our LGBT community. They are getting decimated by this administration. This is an all-out assault on California's democracy and the rights and values. So we have to move quickly, but we are bringing the voters on to this process. We're letting them know the maps have been posted on the website. We have this election on November 4th, and at the end of the day, the voters will decide what is important to them and whether they want to adjust these maps to give California the voice it needs in Congress.
Madam Chair, can you say whether or not state lawmakers involved in drawing the maps? Any state lawmakers at all?
Not to my knowledge.
But who adjusted them last night at 8 p.m.?
It was my understanding that they were by 8 a.m. They were out there.
No, Monday there's an adjustment.
There was a collaboration, but we can get to the people that actually did that work.
So then why does the legislation say the detailed maps are prepared by the Assembly and State Senate elections committees?
So The reality is that it was a collaboration, and we can get those specifics, but I think what's most important is the maps are out there for people to see, to evaluate, to make a judgment on. The lines are the lines.
Madam Chair, but when you consume something, don't you want to know who makes it? When you are presented with something, don't you want to know where it's coming from? Don't voters deserve to know?
When I go to a restaurant, I don't need to meet the chef.
So did this committee meet then to draw the lines? I mean, we're just trying to ascertain who exactly is responsible for drawing these maps at this point.
So the criteria has remained the same from the CRC. 76% of the districts remain the same, and that is what Californians will see. There are many folks, stakeholders, who have had an input on the map drawing process, but ultimately this is up to the decision of California voters, whereas the CRC, which we respect, we want to make sure that there's a nationwide Citizens Redistricting Commission, but the reality is we are in an emergency, and this is our emergency response. We're giving Californians over 2.5 months to review these maps thoroughly and make a decision on whether or not we move forward with this constitutional amendment.
But is the state Senate elections committee, we drew these maps, like you're ready to say that too?
The Senate Rules Committee put these maps, the census tracks, onto the website.
So legislators drew the maps? Can we say that to our viewers?
Again, this was from CRC's criteria. Millions of
right. We need to know create the maps. Was it Paul Mitchell and Paul Mitchell strategies?
It was input again from testimony.
It was drew them out.
It was testimony that was given to the CRC.
By whom?
We're remaining consistent, making sure we're keeping communities of interest together.
Don't they deserve to know who drew these maps?
Again, this is the most transparent process in the nation.
So then who drew the maps?
This is the most transparent process.
If you're not interested in that, can we ask a few other questions? Sure.
Yeah, so just smug, pompous, arrogant, word salad, deflection, woke nonsense. Straight red herring. Look at this emotional argument, this shiny object, to hide and distract you from the fact that this is completely and totally corrupt. And to hide the fact that this is the opposite of transparent. This is anything but transparent. And another thing that this petition to the Supreme Court and lawsuits are covering is the fact that they took an old bill that was already in the works, gutted it, and put in the Election Rigging Response Act in its place. So it kept the same name, but the actual bill was completely different. And the reason why they did this was to basically avoid the 30-day grace period that allows legislators to oppose the bill via legal review. At first, I was pretty doom and gloom about this, but now looking at the polling numbers and the lawsuits and the petitions to the Supreme Court, I really think this special election is dead on arrival. I don't think it's going to go through. It's either going to fail in November or it's going to get stopped before it even gets to that point. And I really think these Democrat politicians and these Democrat voters should really ask themselves, are you really on the right side of history? Are you really stopping fascism? Really ask yourself this one question.
Hans, are we the baddies?
If you like this video, leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.